Hello and welcome to Frank Fridays. My name is Karline Moeller and I'm the founder of Art Frankly. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host Ellie, who is the founder of Hayworth, a art consultancy committed to promoting intrepid ideas at the intersection of art and design. And today we are chatting with Sofia Garcia, the co-founder of ARTXCODE, a digital arts gallery specializing in algorithmic artwork, both on and off the blockchain. Ellie, let's get this interview started.
Amazing. Thank you, Carlina and Sophia. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
No, likewise. I'm happy to be here.
Maybe we can start by, you've had a very interesting career, both in the arts and beyond. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your career in brief.
Yeah, so my career definitely is an interesting one. I had studied art history originally, working at a Chinese art gallery, quickly didn't, kind of realized that that wasn't the sustainable type of paycheck I was looking for. So I kind of pivoted into computer science. I decided to take a coding class. And the second I did that and I started to understand what it meant to code, technology really became more human focused for me. Before it was this all like, I couldn't wrap my head around technology. It just existed. And for the first time I was like, someone had to build that. And so I became really interested in the history of computer generated artwork. Then I got introduced to processing, which actually allowed me to create artwork with code. I started teaching, I got really into it. And then I ended up joining JP Morgan as a front-end engineer, then joining their blockchain team in 2020 as a technical design strategist. And throughout all of that time, I was curating digital art shows, generative art shows. And this is actually a poster of my first show that I exhibited, Tyler Hobbs and Dmitry Cherniak in 2019, both of which are now top of their game, which is really exciting to see. But yeah, that's kind of a SparkNotes version. I left JP Morgan, last year, which was this year. I left, time is who knows, but I left early this year. And so I've been focusing on ARTXCODE full time now. I've since joined ArtBlocks as a consultant and as a member of their art, as their curation board. So yeah, that's my career as it stands.
I love that. Well, certainly that was definitely the elevator pitch version, because I know personally that you've had a very long and exhaustive career, even the short period of time that we've kind of been in the market. Maybe you can tell some of the Art Frankly viewers a little bit more about kind of what goes into cultivating a career for a generative artist. Like, as a dealer and as a representative, what does your day-to-day look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I love finding, these up and coming artists. A lot of it is, one, it's really helpful that I understand the background of what they do. So when I see really strong compositions, I understand what's going on behind the scenes. So I tend to reach out to artists that I think are really amazing. And I have a really amazing group of collectors that I work with who really look at me for advice and help. And so I will basically start finding small pieces, start getting, private sales going, all at reasonable prices, really start low. I look at things very long-term. So I will find young artists, we'll do maybe small sets online, or, maybe it's like 16 pieces. I did that on October 13th with Zach Bodtorf. We did 16 pieces, all of them, at 0.65 Ether. Is all generative art. And, I had sent it to a few collectors beforehand. Everything sold out in 2 minutes. And that's one happy artist, and other art. And now we have a group of collectors who feel very invested and happy that they were able to get in, early, quote unquote, and, support this artist. And now he has a new collector base. Same thing with other artists that I've worked with in the past, Siberia. I do a lot of private sales for him. Dimitri is also a really great example. I was selling his work in 2019 for, in the high hundreds, thousands, and now, you can't get his work for under $1 million. It's been a really cool trajectory, but it's also being really patient with the market and not rushing to sell anything when you know that it should be sold at a certain price. It's kind of this like blend of, in the beginning, be flexible with price points, let it gradually grow. But then once you hit a certain point, being like, no, you can't acquire this piece unless you're willing to pay, this much.
Yeah. I think it's so funny that we're talking about time in this way and patience, because I do feel, and again, I'm in a more analog art market kind of setting for the most part. But patience in the kind of the crypto market is a much more condensed version of patience in terms of, you know, the history of art history. So I can appreciate that, you know, you're applying these principles that have stewarded and maintained the careers of so many storied artists throughout the years. It's just happening in a much more kind of condensed environment, which I also think is just quite interesting and very exciting.
No, it's wild. And it's something that I would not have expected. You know, I always joke about this idea that it's just pre-Beeple, post-Beeple. You know, in 2020, I remember, you know, talking about NFTs. I did like an interview, and it was kind of like, oh, if you haven't heard about this, take a look. In the next few years, we'll see it kind of, you know, I thought we still had 5 years, you know, until people were really talking about it in the mainstream. And so now here we are, and it's definitely, on one hand, I've seen the careers of these artists that I've worked with skyrocket, but at the other side of it, it's like, I thought that we were going to kind of do this over a long term. And so now 6 months feels like 6 years. And it's really crazy to see. But on the other side of it, you have people who are like, oh, this project came out and it's not getting sold for, you know, millions of dollars within 2 weeks. It's a flop. It's like, that's not actually how any of this works. So it's, you know, everything will work itself out.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting. Maybe from like a business standpoint, you can talk a little bit. I mean, we just alluded to the fact that the market obviously, I mean, it kind of like shot up in a very kind of quick order. And you went from working a full-time job and having ARTXCODE be a passion project. I remember a few years ago, you and I sat down and it was still, I mean, it was very much in kind of in action, but it was in an ideation phase still as well. And now you guys are running a full-fledged company. You are committing your time on every day. Talk to us a little bit about the kind of that business, the progression, and what has kind of shifted or how it's evolved in maybe the past year or two.
Yeah, I mean, I have to attribute a lot of this to the fact that now generative art is just being spoken about, and that is really in thanks and in part to Art Blocks. Art Blocks is one of the first. It is the first marketplace online where you're actually able to own code, like coded art, generative artwork. So beforehand, when I would do an exhibition, I would have prints of the artwork. I would, you know, go to the artist studio, we would tinker around with the different parameters, and we would get one output that we wanted to get framed. And then I would have a printout of the code to give to collectors and being like, this is what you're seeing here. And so, and you know, in the early days of NFTs too, we were showcasing emulations of the code as video. So minting video, selling videos of the program running, selling screenshots of it. And now how Art Blocks works is that what the artist is uploading is their algorithm, and what and what collectors are buying are the output that's generated by it. And so when you press purchase, that algorithm runs that one time with that purchase, that entire action is a variable in the work. And so you as a collector get a very distinct and unique artwork when you do that. And part of it is that the code is stored on chain. So for the first time, you get to own the aura of the artwork. You actually get the guts of the code.
It's almost like the shadow or the projection of it.
Yeah, and it's like this, you know, this whole argument of like mass reproduction and there's no, or you lose the aura, but in this case, it's actually the complete opposite. And so NFTs have actually been the perfect medium for generative artwork. And so now you have this token, this NFT that actually holds a little bit more weight than the everyday one that's just kind of maybe a link, a deed of ownership to this link. On this one, you get not only the deed, but you get the artwork itself. And so
very interesting.
Absolutely changed the way that people look at generative art specifically, and it's why it's really it's kind of like priming at the moment. You know, everyone is talking about generative art, and so beforehand it was this really fun project that I did out of love. I did a lot of things for pro bono. I just helped artists out. I love doing it. I love doing exhibitions, and now, you know, because of all that time that I've put in, you know, I am able to advise collectors. I'm able to represent artists. I'm able to broker deals. I'm able to put on shows, and, you know, and people want to support because they know that that I've been doing this for a really long time. So now I can do that.
You're an expert in the field.
Yeah.
And I even think, I mean, everything you just said right there is critical education for a lot of individuals who may not necessarily be as well versed. I mean, I think for a lot of people, the confusion about what an NFT actually is it still hasn't quite been debunked. So I love the idea, you know, you have the blockchain is the ledger. The blockchain is basically the platform that's listing these transactions. The code itself is what's actually telling the platform to create whatever it is that you're seeing. And then there's this output that, I mean, even some NFT artists now or digital artists, generative artists are, you know, a lot of their work still lives just in the metaverse, but a lot of them are actually producing products. And so, I mean,
when I first started working with NFTs, the way that I would use it, so in 2019, if an artist wanted a print of, I mean, if a collector wanted a print, I would make them buy the NFT as the deed of ownership. And then I would get it wasn't until 2020 that I really realized that I could sell artwork as digital native, and that there were plenty of collectors out there that did not care at all about receiving
the actual physical object.
Also, from the business point of view, like, it made my life a lot easier. I didn't have to pay for production. I didn't have to pay for shipping, like, all those logistics.
There's no conservation issues. I mean, except perhaps just that technology needs to be updated. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but it's different.
But like, if you move, like, you don't have to, you know, pack up all of your artwork. You have your wallet that holds all of your assets, and now you have digital galleries where you can explore your artwork in digital space. And that's a way a lot of collectors are kind of like flexing their guns and showing off their really impressive collections. And so it's a completely new ecosystem, new environment, but it's still the same model of what runs a lot of the traditional art market in terms of showing off, ego, you know, all of these things, like, they still apply, just in different ways. So you want to buy something at its all-time high, or you still want to buy something at a certain price and be able to sell it later, or, you know, have the best of the best so that you can show people. And now it's the same thing. It's just a little bit different, and it's open and it's public, and people don't have to go to your house to see what you own. They can go to a link, and, you know, you have it as your Twitter profile picture. And now you have a whole community of people that are kind of showing, like, we're part of the same crew. I see you, you see me. And it's really cool.
It's really interesting. Well, Sophia, I could talk to you about NFTs and blockchain and all of the generative art all day. We love to conclude with just one or two kind of professional practice questions for Art Frankly's viewers and audience. What is one kind of key piece of advice that you think has guided you and attributed to your success in your career?
Curiosity and just the willingness to experiment, even if it might be wrong. That's the biggest thing I think has been extremely helpful. Just moving forward, just keep moving forward. With curiosity.
I love that. And just as a concluding note, is there anything that we should stay tuned for, or a project you're working on that you want us to kind of pay attention to as it comes up?
Absolutely. I'm hosting the digital. It's an exhibition and auction during Miami Art Week from December 3rd to the 5th in partnership with Art Blocks. It's going to be really exciting, and you know, I think it's going to be a cool way to show people how you can really enjoy NFTs and generative art in person, in the flesh. So definitely tuned.
Amazing. Well, we'll definitely make sure that we're communicating that to our audiences so that everybody could see it. And I know everybody's anxious for Miami Art Week to actually come back and in all of its full force. So it'll be fun to see. And this was just a really fun conversation, and I can't wait to continue it because we have some future talks that we'll be doing more of this. But thanks for contributing to our Frank Friday today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.